Here's what happened. Since starting my career in 2014 as a DJ to my 2018 burnout after that 500-person social media conference to this present day as I'm recording this episode for you, something has happened in every single damn chapter in my life. And that is I have made the mistakes. Mistakes have happened. And it's not avoiding the mistakes, but it's what happens after for you. This is Make Burnout Extinct podcast. I'm Robert David Weeks. I am fired up today to get into this for mistakes. I want this to be your wake-up call. We are not taking the lead from Green Day and waiting till the end of September to wake up. It's about now. Having this opportunity to realize that you are supposed to make mistakes, because we can get it twisted in our minds to think we're not supposed to make mistakes. But we know better. That could have been something we got in the past if we were on the playground and we made a mistake and all of a sudden all the other kids are pointing and saying, nah, 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 you made a mistake. Or if it's in the classroom and we made a mistake in answering a question and all of a sudden you had the laugh of the classroom on you and that embarrassing feeling like you wanted to crawl up into a ball and disappear from the world, to that moment where you go up and if it's going for a presentation or a conversation at your work and you slip and you stumble over your words and you don't say what you wanted to say in the moment, and then you can see it in their eyes of how much faith they've lost in you in that moment. And that just makes you want to melt and be so embarrassed and not show back up. I get it. I've been there. In each of these chapters of life, mistakes are inevitable. And when we choose to not continue to go through the natural rhythms of life and make those mistakes, we are having a one-way ticket to burnout. Because when you are scared of making those mistakes, I think about that. For me, in making the mistakes, it's not even about the fear of making mistakes that clicks at first. It's the fear of the unknown and uncertainty for taking certain actions that is going to move you towards an uncertain future that has the potential of mistakes happening. So what I want to get into is sharing with you these 3 lessons that I, looking back, have learned, have come through in the mistakes that I've experienced, and that have helped me now in this present moment with making burnout extinct in my life to be reminders of why mistakes are really important to have happen. And yes, is it embarrassing? Absolutely. Do we get the cringe in the back of, or the tingle spidey senses? And that's like tingling blanket all over our body that we want to just rip off? Yes. Do you get the back of head, just like it melting of embarrassment all the way to the rest of your body? Yes. That is life. It is part of life. And it's reminding you for us to get out of feeling we need to be a victim and to take that responsibility for ourselves, to give compassion to ourselves, but to realize that we have to honor those feelings and move through them and to continue to move towards what we want, because we have the dreams, the vision, the goals, the life that we want to live, the health that we want to create for ourselves, the role model that we want to be for our families, our partner. We have those, and it can get really exciting to be moving towards that. So how this connects to burnout is that when you are scared of making the mistakes, that you'll be made fun of, the nah, 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 the laughing of everyone laughing in your face, that is a natural response based off of human history. Because in the past, we go way back, you can remember subconsciously, somewhere deep down in your bones, that if you were to stand up in front of a group and make a mistake or have a differing opinion or disagree, what can happen then is the group could kick you out by making a mistake. They kicked you out. You did the action, you said the thing, you went for it, and it became a mistake. So you realized you messed up. And in that moment, the group said, well, we're going to see you later. See you never. You're out and you're on your own. And where did that lead? Led to death most of the times. We can just draw that common sense conclusion on your own in the wild. So no wonder we feel we have this life or death with how we navigate our actions in life moving towards the future. It's understandable. Yet we have to realize that we're living in this modern age where we have so many comforts around us. We can get anything we want from the palm of our hand with our phone, almost anything that we want. And we are living in a lot of comfort. And I'm a big fan of comfort. I like hanging out on the couch. I like watching shows on Netflix. And it's about realizing that when we let the fear and being scared of making mistakes hold us back from not even, and I love this saying from Alex Ramosi for this thinking, it doesn't even allow us when we're in that fear to even create the evidence for ourselves to show that we can handle the mistakes and move through the mistakes and continue to live our life. So when we're stuck, right? Because this is about how do we get unstuck. When we're stuck, that anxiety that we feel, it continues to increase because we're thinking back to all of our past mistakes. And then with that, the stress increases. And if we have no way of showing ourselves the evidence by taking the action, courageously stepping into the action and creating a different narrative for ourselves through our actions, then we are going to be moving towards the chronic exhaustion, hitting that first red flag of burnout, which then creates the domino effect of the negativity that we're feeling, the resentment we're feeling to ourselves because we're not able to push through, and then we're beating ourselves up in our minds consistently, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and more intense and more intense and more intense. And that's not going to serve you. That's not going to help you in the long run. You're just going to create this little pity party for ourselves. And we get into this victimhood because it could be similar to how it was for me growing up. Whenever we would cry, someone would come rushing in and taking care of us. Or whenever we would show whenever we would show ourselves struggling to the point where we can't really do anything for ourselves, people who would come in and help us. So there's this fine line that we have to navigate of where we honor our feelings and where we can share our struggles and our challenges, because that is something that we can be missing in our society, of the willingness to be open, and instead we put on our mask of perfection and that we are awesome and amazing and our lives are perfect. The Instagram, other social media platforms highlight reel. So it's that fine line with then this line of taking responsibility, not glorifying the victimhood of us, but being able to take on responsibility, to take on the action, to courageously step into the unknown and move towards what we want in life and bringing that into reality. So it is that fine line. It's a hard task to do. Being human is hard. It's not always super fun and energizing and amazing. But if we're stuck, that anxiety and stress has no way of releasing itself because we're deciding to not take the action into the unknown to prove that we can survive. So lesson 1 is to remember that your current thoughts are based on past experiences. What comes up for me for a story is in high school, I plagiarized. It was my senior year. We had this big paper called, I'm going to make sure I remember the name. It was integrative was a class. And it was this big paper that we had to write on. The topic that I'm writing on is not coming to mind right now. But what happened was through an honest mistake, I plagiarized. It was like taking like certain, like I think a few sentences. It was like a few sentences that I had somehow copied and pasted into my paper, and then the teacher I had called me out on it and said you plagiarized. And for me, I made the mistake. I don't know how I made it. It was one of those moments where I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like this is the first time I've ever done something like this." I had an advisor for this paper, and I was telling her I did not intentionally do this. I was telling my teacher I did not intentionally do this, but yet somehow this teacher, rightfully so, was determined to continue to say that I did this on purpose, that there has to be consequences for my actions. All the consequences for your actions, I get it. But it felt like this person had an agenda to go out and do this. And that was the thought process. That's what came through for me as the interpretation. She could have just been doing her job. She's a teacher. Someone plagiarized. We got to go through the proper channels. Yes, this is senior year. Yes, I'm going off to college. Yes, do I have the grades to be able to do that? Is it such a big deal in the grand scheme of things for this situation? No. But how I interpreted it was that by being honest, telling the truth, saying I don't know how I made how I it was an honest mistake, but it not being heard, it actually resulting in the opposite of understanding, but more I'm gonna continue to push for this. I then created the narrative in my mind that mistakes, people weren't gonna believe me when I apologized for my mistakes. It gets me. I mean, it brings up the emotions right now. Like that took me years, over a decade, for that to click, of why I'm holding myself back from taking action in certain unknowns. Because if I make a mistake, people aren't going to believe me when I apologize. And for the situation, looking back, I was able to go to college. It was able to get resolved. The head of the school heard me out. I had to redo the paper, but I was able to continue to live my life. I was able to survive. But somehow what I remembered was the negative part of that, which was I'm not going to be believed. That is why I would take the gift in that is taking meticulous time to go through any information I share with you here. For my commitment on this podcast is to be truthful, is to make sure I have the data right, and the studies and the surveys, and I'm taking the time to really go into that type of details so that you know that the information I'm sharing with you is, to the best of my knowledge and the work I've done on the research side, is truthful information. But then there can be a level of it going too far, where then it cripples me from stepping in and taking action and going for that risk in life. So then what can happen is I hold myself back and I get stuck. And that stuckness can last for weeks. It can last for months. It could last for years or decades. It could last a lifetime. Going back to a regret that people have on their deathbeds. And it's something I don't want you to have to go through. Because again, what I shared at the beginning, this is a one-way ticket to burnout. So remember, your current thoughts are based on the past experiences. You are going to have this moment, taking action, where you are going to have to courageously go and do the damn thing. You will. And it's a reminder that everyone else before you that steps into that towards what they want in life and the dreams and the visions, and I'm here to tell you for my own life, you are going to have that moment of having to courageously decide to step into it. It's going to be scary. You are going to be sweating. I think of my armpit stains. Yeah, like you're going to have that fear is going to be there. But it's to move through that, to honor it and move through it and learn who you are on the other side. And that leads me into lesson number 2. You will survive this mistake. It's not life or death for these mistakes. I know, going back to what we talked about with the human history, back then, yeah, now you can survive this mistake. I think of 2018, leading up to my burnout. What kept happening was I ended up having to lie throughout that journey leading up to the end with my team, with the community. I was lying about how I was feeling, about how I was feeling overworked. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, creating this event and this vision. I didn't have my numbers right. We weren't getting as much awareness, but I felt that if I told the truth, that I wouldn't survive, because it had been all these mistakes I had been making, and I know I was making them. So I just felt like I had to just keep going and get through it. And guess what? I'm here to tell you, I'm alive. I'm here, hand raised. I had to own up to those mistakes. I had to send the email to the contractors that I didn't have the money to pay them right after the event, and say I fucked up, and that I will do my damnedest to pay this money back. I had to tell my parents, moving back in with them after the event, and I was burnt out, financially had to become dependent. I mentally was in a shitty place. I had to tell them I'm not okay. Worried that they wouldn't love me and that I wouldn't survive that. We can tend to want to expand out this drama. We live in a lot of drama in society. We have an overload of this. Drama everywhere. Drama on social media. Drama on canceling people. Drama on reality TV. So no wonder we feel this life or death. This feeling that we're not going to survive this mistake. And I want to tell you, you will survive it. So then that leads me to lesson 3, which is staying stuck. If you know your current thoughts are based on the past experiences, it's time to create new experiences and new narratives. Realizing for lesson 2, you will survive this mistake. Lesson 3 is going to be help push you into this. And that is, staying stuck isn't worth avoiding the mistakes. It's not. You already know. If you have that vision of going out for that promotion, you have that moment of you wanting to create the podcast or the book or to go tell someone that you love them. You already know, you feel it right now of how that stuck feeling, how that feels. It's not worth it to avoid the mistakes of figuring out if you know you're going to get this or not, or stumbling over your words and messing up and making the mistakes, or saying something the wrong way that's interpreted in a different way. Guess what? You have time to recover from your mistakes. It's not just one and then that's it. You have an opportunity to be able to recover from it, to apologize, to say this is actually what I meant. Yet somehow, though, we think when we go into that unknown, take the action, that it is permanent. And I want to remind you, it's not. We know that in life, looking back at life, who we were when we were 6 years old is not who we are now, but it is a part of us in our journey. And so again, it's to honor those feelings that can come up, to not suppress them, not push them down, allow them to come through, and to realize that you have an opportunity to change the narrative, to take action, to move forward. Because staying stuck isn't worth avoiding mistakes. Seeing that dream, what you want in life, who you know you can become, that next level, to not ever even attempt to go out there and give it a try, I can tell you from personal experience, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. Because one, that leads you to burnout. Because you just feel all that stress and that anxiety of like, what ifs? And it becomes this loop, this open loop in your mind that goes to the rest of your body. So there's an opportunity then to take action and to figure out where the hell this life leads you then. And guess what? You get to take that action, make that mistake, you get to learn from it, grow from it, and then be able to go back out and do another action, to take courageously another step forward in your life. And from there, it continues to stack up and stack up and stack up. And then you're building that evidence of who you are into that future. And I will tell you, that is a beautiful gift that you can give to yourself, to take on that responsibility and to go out there and live life, to get excited about life, to not be on the sidelines looking at everyone else's social media. Because I know I can tell you I did that for a while. I was building resentment. I remember looking at everyone else's success and being like, fuck you. I want that success. But I wasn't doing anything about it. I was just looking out and complaining, saying, must be nice. Like, that's cool that they're doing that. But there's no way I can do that. I wasn't even attempting it. I wasn't even giving it a try. I wasn't even going for it. So now it's, okay, well, how do we take the action? How do we go for this thing? How do you go into it, right? That seems super big, super overwhelming. I have this vision. I have these ideas of what I want, but it just seems so big and so out there. Start small. You can go back to first principles. What needs to happen to begin that process? What is the smallest action? Going back to Atomic Habits with James Clear, what's that smallest action that you can take to move forward? Is it the message that you have to send? If it's the words you have to speak to someone, what is it? Because I'll go back to Lisa Nichols' quote, which is, communication is the distance between you and everything you want. There is something there to be said, to be shared. What is that on its smallest form? And then take it. And from there, to be able to support yourself, is what I learned from James Clear's work, is then have a reward for yourself of something that you know is going to create excitement for you and feel energizing and feels like a moment to be able to recharge. Have that be then a reward for yourself of taking that action, and then do another action, and then another one, and then another one. And then you know what's going to happen? You're going to be moving to a whole next level of life. And I'll leave you with this quote from Eric Edbeats, who is someone that has helped me in my public speaking journey of speaking our truth. And you can take this for any other area that you're wanting to focus in on, that you know you have that vision, you have those wants and desires, but right now you're feeling that stuckness because of the mistakes, the potential mistakes happening in the future. And it's this quote that if you can't believe in your dreams, you had them written down, you had that moment of courage, you wrote it all down, you said it out loud, but if you can't believe in your dreams right now, then start doubting your doubts. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out of Make Burnout Extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram and LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I don't take that for granted. Excited to reconnect again soon.